Welcome. I am Grace. Welcome to Ecstatic Yoga. This is Xander, my cat, and he likes to join us for our classes. We are doing a class today. Excited about this class, and it is on the environment, your yoga class environment, and elements of a yoga class. These are suggestions, and of course, you will want to add your own variations and maybe your own additions, or maybe not even use quite so much. So I put in a lot. You may not use all of this in a yoga class, but it gives you a little bit of a idea and some foundation and a little bit of structure. So when you go out to teach yoga classes, you can have a structure to work on and create your own ideas. And of course, you're always welcome to use the exact formula and exact structure that we suggest. And there are some things that are important. So, environment and elements of a yoga class. Each yoga practice is an inward journey, inward to the inner being. Yoga is an act of self-love, a moving meditation that connects you deeper to your body, mind, and soul. Allows your mind to become more still and invites your heart and soul to transform your life. With an inviting and clean environment, flowing sequences, and appropriate pacing, you will be teaching a powerful yoga class and assist students to have a deepening experience of connecting within. So let's talk about the environment for a moment. There are many aspects of creating a positive, safe, and inviting environment for your yoga class. We will dive into very simple ways to create a space for your yoga students so they feel fully supported and they're wanting to keep coming back to your yoga classes in the space that you provide for your yoga practice. So I go through the senses. So we'll start with sight. It's important to have a visually pleasing space that provides a sense of spaciousness and openness. It's less is often better, and clutter can be a little distracting. And simple decor like some plants, maybe some peace flags, or maybe a statue, a yoga symbol, positive symbols and statues, of course. And it's always fun to have yoga Hindu type statues if that's what pleases you. I love angels too. Nature related items are always inviting, and a fountain is something that's wonderful, but make sure it's a quiet fountain because sometimes a real loud fountain can be distracting. But they can create some peace and serenity, and they can add for an anchor in the mindfulness practice. Lighting is also important in your yoga space. You want the room to be pretty well lit in the space so that they can see you, they can see each other, they feel comfortable. And of course, during Savasana, we will be turning the lights down. Sound is important. Sound is a very important thing. So you want it a quiet room when they're in Savasana, so that hopefully it's not in a place where there's a lot of noise or outside music or outside conversation. Maybe if you were like really close to a noisy cafe, that would probably be distracting for your yoga students. I was in a yoga class once, and there was it was in Costa Rica, in Dominical, where our yoga retreat center is, our future retreat center will be. And I'm in a yoga class, and all of a sudden the yoga instructor said, just to allow the jackhammer noises to bring you further and deeper into your meditation. And I was so deep and present in the practice that I had not even heard the jackhammer until she had mentioned it. But it's probably not a good idea if you have a lot of construction. But then you want to provide some of your own sounds and music to your classes. So we'll go over that a little bit more in the elements of the yoga class, but it's nice to have yoga music. And when we do the yoga music, it's nice to have, if you're having a yin asana practice, it's nice to have music that's slower than the heartbeat. And if you have a more yang practice where people are trying to bring their energy up, then it could be a little more quicker, faster beat, a little more louder, a little more upbeat music. So choose your music in according to the intention of your practice. If it's a more slower, inward, quieting, stillness practice, or if you're trying to bring the energy up and create a little tapas and some heat and a more yang practice, then the music can be enlivening and faster and louder and quicker. Smells in your room, of course, you want to not have any offensive smells. Make sure if it's have a trash can, you're emptying that pretty regularly. The bathrooms are clean, and the place smells good. And then you'd want to maybe add some smells that smell good. My suggestion is always go natural. Sometimes those artificial fragrances and perfumes, those plug-in things are offensive to people's, they get allergic to them and they don't like them. So it's better to go natural, but some those diffusers for the natural essential oils are wonderful. Sometimes lighting a little sage or the San Paulo or even a little incense is okay, but never too much, because if someone comes into a real incense-filled room, that's going to be distracting as well. So, but it's nice to have the place smell clean. It's great to be able to have a place where you can have some fresh air come through and move through the space so that it smells like the outside. That's my favorite. In the feel, you want to have a temperature that is a nice temperature. So, and it depends again on the class. If it is a more yin class, you're going to want to have the temperature a little more warm. If you're doing a samadhi class, you're going to want to have it even more warm, because people are going to be very still. Of course, they'll have their blankets in their nest, but their bodies will be very still. They'll be going into deep meditation, so the body gets cold during the yin practices and samadhi, relaxation, savasana, yoga nidra. You want to keep it warmer. And then if you're doing a real yang class where you're really working out and really creating some heat and strength, then you'd want to keep the heat down a little bit so the temperature is down. But always keep it within a nice range, unless you're doing hot yoga. Of course, then you'd want it really high. So those are some elements of the environment of your class. You want to keep the environment pleasing and peaceful for your students. So we'll go through now the elements of a class, and I'm going to list the elements and I'm going to go into a little more detail. We're going to have a before the class as people are coming in, and then you're going to have your welcome. Well, that just will be the very start of your class, and then the opening. So you'll be opening up the class, and then warm-ups, main asana practice, the releases, relaxation, savasana, and then your final closing. So we'll go through them all. So before class, before you begin your yoga class, And this is as students are arriving. You want to welcome your students with a smile. And ask and remember their names. And create a comfortable and inviting space for them. Especially if a new student arrives, they may possibly be coming to yoga for the very first time. This may be something they have never done before. They may be in a new studio, they've never come to your studio before. And so if this is their first time ever trying yoga, and they've been brave and got the courage up to come to your space, you want to really try to assist them to feel safe and welcome. You want to create a positive experience for all your students so they continue to come back to your classes and have a great experience with your classes and with yoga in general. And there may not always be an opportunity to greet each student as they come in. You just want to simply do your very best. And understand that when a student does come in late, you just continue on once you start your class. They will know to just put their mat down, get themselves set up. Hopefully they'll be respectful and quiet as they do so, but don't bring any attention to it. Just allow, you always have a few stragglers, but you just continue to teach the class, but don't interrupt the class if some people come in late. And you'll be able to greet them and say hello when the class is over. And please don't ever make anybody wrong or shameful or guilty or bad for coming in late. Just allow them to come in. Everybody has situations in life. This is yoga. It's about acceptance and love. You're going to keep your commitment to start your class and end your classes on time. And they'll just get themselves, and when they're ready, they'll start participating and get into the yoga class. So allow them to get settled on their own without interrupting the class. And if they are new, please try to connect with them when the class is over, if they came late. You want to make sure, whether you're in a studio or you have a home practice, that your students always sign a waiver that they're taking the class at their own risk and hold you harmless, in the studio harmless, your business harmless. And before class is also a good time to ask students as they come in, and when there's time, if they have any injuries or limitations, any recent surgeries, things like that, get to know them and their body. And with this information, you can offer some modifications and variations and some adjustments during the class. We're going to go over that in other classes. And this will allow them to be more comfortable. It will allow their practice to be more safe and add to comfort during the practice. However, there'll be times when you won't be able to ask anybody that. And the waiver should always say that they're responsible for their own body. And this is important so that when they're doing their practice, you can always invite people to be responsible for their body, to not move into pain, always back off if there's pain. Always welcome to go into child's pose or Savasana or a resting pose, seated pose, anytime during the practice and take a break. That they are responsible for caring for their bodies. And that they can adjust their poses throughout the class to adjust to their bodies and their needs. And it is always a gift to include complimentary music for your yoga classes. Let's see here. Xander's getting in my way. Oh, goodness. Let's see here. Hold on, Dandy Boo. I love my cat, but sometimes he can knock over the computer. All right, Sandy. You're going to have to go down. Sorry. He's still up here. All right. Sorry for that. He likes to play with the computer sometimes. All right. So you're opening. Now everybody's in their places. Everybody's got their mats. And it is time to start. And you always want to start on time. And so we're going to welcome your students and move into breath awareness. Always want to share your name and the style of class that you'll be teaching. So if it's a yin class, then you want to be sure to mention that you're in yin class. Maybe it's a breath workshop or pranayama workshop. So let them know what they're going to be enjoying for the next hour or 90 minutes. Invite the students to be in your starting position, whether that's in a seated position or supine position for this opening. And with our classes, we always invite people to go into breath awareness to begin the class. Just becoming aware of the breath. Simply noticing, no need to change it, no need to make it right or wrong. Just noticing, observing as a neutral witness. The simple act of breathing in the body. And this calms the mind. It's also called mindful breathing, breath awareness. We're just noticing. So we're becoming more mindful. We're inviting them to leave the world and all the hecticness and everything that's on their mind, their long to-do lists and what they have to do after class, and bring their full attention and focus on the breath. So we're calming the nervous system right off the bat. And as they sit in breath awareness, this is a message you can give them. Invite the students to care for and take responsibility for their own bodies, using modifications if necessary and poses needed to invite the students to always allow themselves to rest in Savasana or child's pose, or any resting pose of their choice, anytime if needed during the practice. And remind them in yoga, we do not feel pain, nor do we force the body into poses. We always honor the body and allow the body to open. And we invite them to play their edge without forcing, and always staying in that good feeling of sensations, but never pain. And then we move into the next step of our opening, which is presence, pranayama, and intention. After we say our little disclosure during mindful breath. The invitation next is to bring the belly, the breath down into the belly. Abdominal breathing, belly breathing. Inviting them all to drop that breath down to the belly. And they will continue to breathe mindfully. However, they're breathing into the belly now. Now, belly breathing is so important to trigger this parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation response in our bodies. Relaxing that nervous system. And invite them to become present to their bodies. So we're inviting presence as well. Breathing into the lower abdomen, calm that nervous system and trigger that parasympathetic nervous system and the relaxation response. And then become aware of their bodies, present to the moment, here and now. Always invite them to feel the earth below them. This gives them a sense of security, sense of grounding, and acknowledging that support, that grounding, that the earth is providing them and their bodies. And then offering them the invitation to experience self-love and acknowledging themselves for being here now in this yoga practice. And the next invitation is very important, and that is scanning the body. Invite students to scan the inner environment, noticing what is occurring energetically and emotionally within them. This is a new muscle, so you're inviting them to go within. Sometimes people are very disconnected to their inner world. I always invite them to never describe the sensations or emotions, because that puts them in the mind and in the intellect. It's not in the feeling sense. So we're either feeling our emotions or we're intellectually describing them. So invite them to not describe the emotions, and please never ever judge the emotions. Whatever is arising from within them, at any moment, is simply arising. And we're going in and scanning and noticing, being with ourselves without any judgment as that neutral observer, equanimity, inviting them to feel fully. When we try to describe an emotion, it really narrows things down too, as well as brings us up into the head and not into the felt sense. But the emotions are such a kaleidoscope when you really go in and go into that felt sense of emotions. It could be so many that you can't narrow it down to one. But allow them to just bask in that kaleidoscope without any description, any analyzation, none of that, and definitely no judgment. Because there may be emotions and sensations that are uncomfortable, and we're asking them to bask in that as well without judgment. And that's a new experience for some people, to simply be present with themselves with uncomfortable emotions. And often it's even the mind that has judged that they're uncomfortable. Sometimes when you bask into anxiety, bask into grief, into fear, and you fully bask in with no resistance, no judgment, it can feel joyous, it can feel beautiful. So invite them to feel without judgment, simply observing from neutrality, not pushing anything away, being the witness to the inner state. And the next step of our opening is intention. After a few belly breaths, and inviting them to and going into a scan of the body, we're going to invite them to set an intention for themselves. Inviting them to set an intention for the practice, for the day, it could be for the year, it could be for a lifetime intention. Allowing them to set their own intention, whatever may arise for them and is most important in that moment. Reminding them that intentions are always set in the positive and the present. For example, I have the relationship of my dreams. I'm enjoying a work I absolutely love. I have all the time and money I need now. Use just one, maybe two examples. You don't even need to, but just remind them to make it in the present and positive. Provide about 2 full breaths of silence for them to repeat their intention silently to themselves. And remind them to repeat it silently, because you may have people shouting out their intentions if you don't. And then we move into 3-part yogic breath. So we've been breathing into our belly triggering that relaxation response in the parasympathetic nervous system. And now it's time to fill the entire front abdominal cavity, open up the breath a little bit. So we invite them to now engage in 3-part yogic breath, continuing to engage the parasympathetic nervous system, yet also filling the entire front body with prana. 3-part yogic breath is inviting a deep inhale into the lower belly first, and like a wave, we're moving up the front body into the ribs, and then the chest and the clavicular area. And we'll be doing a lot of that during our teacher training. And this allows, and inviting them on their exhale just to release and exhale completely, all the oxygen. And the exhale, there's no intention set, just exhaling completely. And guide them through 2 or 3-part yogic breaths. And then invite them to continue to engage the 3-part yogic breathing for about 2 or 3 more breaths on their own. So you'll guide them through a couple, the lower belly, the ribs, and the chest and clavicular area. And you'll all breathe together for a couple breaths. And then let them continue at their own pace for 2 to 3 breaths. And you can add a pranayama option at this point, depending on whether you have a 90-minute class or 60-minute class or 30-minute class. You probably wouldn't have time to do this, but adding another pranayama just to deepen the class and bring a little more breath and pranayama into your classes would be a good time to do that. And so our next and final thing is our final pratyahara. After the final breath work, whether it's a 3-part yogic or you add an extra pranayama, we're going to invite the students to go back into pratyahara. So this is going to be a little different than the body scan. Body scan, they're going to be going in and noticing what's inside the body. You can be going from the head to the toes. You can go from the heart and move through the chakras. We're going to go a little deeper into body scan and just invite them to withdraw the attention from the outer world and bring their awareness into the subtle sensations of the body. Maybe they can feel the heart beating, physical heart beating, that pulsation in the body. Maybe vibrations, emotions, warmth, cool. And invite them to just simply rest in Pratyahara for a few minutes after they've done their breath work. And now we move into warm-ups and invite some seated warm-ups. So they're still seated, or if they're on their back, if they're in the supine position, there's plenty of warm-ups they can do in the supine position. We'll go through all that more, but this is so the body can warm up a little before they go into the major asana practice, the main asana practice, and more active postures. Some seated options for the warm-ups are like pelvic grinds, making some circles, pelvic rocks, seated cat and cow, a little flexion and extension of the spine. You can do a seated forward fold. You can have them extend their legs out, or maybe have the feet together. And butterfly is a great warm-up. Some gentle neck rocks or side-to-side stretches with your neck, reminding them always with the neck to go slowly and carefully. Some body stretches. You could do some side-to-side body stretches, reaching out. Some gentle twists. They can do some twists side-to-side. Some pelvic lifts. Baddha Konasana, as I mentioned, butterfly. Leg flops, just wake up those legs. We'll be going into a lot more warm-ups in analytics. Supine, if they're lying on their back, happy baby is a great one. Knees to chest. Dropping the knees side to side like the windshield wipers. They can lift the legs straight up to the sky. There's a lot of things they can do to just warm up if you want to begin laying on their back. And then we move into the main asana practice. And I invite, one of the things that ecstatic yoga loves to do is to include some subtle body breaks between your flows. It's called a Pratyahara break or a Samadhi break. So let me go over Pratyahara break. And that is the invitation, like we just talked about, to invite students to notice the inner subtle sensations, the subtle body, the energetic sensations within their bodies between every set of poses or flow sequences. Another is a samadhi break, and that is when you invite them to enter into a mini samadhi, which I do often. We'll be practicing that often during the class. And that is a little bit longer, but it will be not a long samadhi, just a quick mini samadhi when you bring them through asana, and that's body awareness, pranayama, breath awareness, pratyahara, inner sensation, dhyana, single pointed focus, dhyana, meditation, and then allow them to naturally flow into samadhi. And as you get, and samadhi, of course, is the bliss, expanded awareness, enlightenment. As you get adept at reaching samadhi states, most important thing for you is to enter into that state yourself. And that will assist the students in your class to enter that state as well. I'm going to share a little story about Pratyahara. When I first started yoga at Kripalu Center, and they were inviting me to go into the body and notice sensations, it was very foreign for me. I had no clue what they were talking about or how even to do that. And it took time, practicing and continuing to go to the classes and just making that intention at first. Okay, I'll try. And eventually I got better and better at it. And it's still a journey for me. I'm still getting better and better at it. I don't think there's ever a stopping point or a way of mastery for it. It's an ongoing journey. And then there's some days you're a little better at going inward than others. So as we are in our main asana flow, I'm going to include a couple Pratyahara breaks, noticing the sensations, or samadhi breaks. And so before your practice, you'll be choosing some flows and poses. And the invitation is always to choose flows and poses that transition smoothly one to the other and complement the action, or always offering some counter posing. We'll go through that in the analytics, but some flows that you'll be learning in this class are the sun salutation flows, especially sun salutation Sari Namaskar C, warrior flows, twists, hip openers, floor flows, and variations to these flows to make them a little different each time. Always end your main practice with a few minutes for students to practice a pose or a stretch that their bodies are calling for. Maybe something that you didn't have in the practice that they wanted to do. And just allowing them, even if they don't want to do a pose, they can just stretch, roll around a little, just move in ways that make their body feel good. It's always nice to give them a few minutes to stretch out and do a pose or move their body in some way that feels good before you move into Savasana. So then let's see, the last thing after they main practice and they moved into their little bit of spontaneous movements. Happy baby's always a good one. If you haven't done that, people love that. We want to do some releases before we go into Savasana after your main practice. And This is to release and relax the lower back, the spine, and just do some warm down so that they're prepared and ready and very comfortable in their Savasana, the relaxation. And we offer a little sequence that is always nice, and that is our hula, hip pointers, cat and cow on the floor, windshield wipers, and you could do double leg or single leg windshield wipers, single knee drop, and there's a chi builder you'll be learning as well. It's a really nice one. Releases and relaxes the lower back and builds up the chi. It helps for a real nice Savasana relaxation. And the next is our relaxation Savasana. And this is the final pose. And it is as important, if not more important, than all the other poses. Relaxation Savasana offers the opportunity for the body to integrate the entire yoga practice, all the poses, all the asanas, and allow the energies to integrate into the body and integrate the benefits of the poses. To skip this part of the practice is to really sell out on the body. It's as important as the main asana practice, relaxation. And when it's time for Savasana, invite the students to prepare for relaxation by laying flat on their backs in a supine position. Invite them if they need to put a jacket on, or a sweatshirt on, or socks on, and maybe an eye pillow if they need a bolster, allowing for some support for them during Savasana. Some people are into more support than others. And you want to prepare the room. Very easy things: turn down the lights or turn off the lights, turn off the music. For silence, you can draw the shades if there's a lot of sun coming in the windows. It's nice to make kind of a nice little cocoon environment for them. So as they go into Savasana, it's a very inward time. So turning the lights down and pulling the shades, and always want to turn off that music so they can have silence during Savasana. Some people like to put their quiet, slow music on, but it's more beneficial and helps them go more inward without any outer distractions at all. And we'll go through some relaxation prompts. Invite the students to become very aware of their own bodies, feeling that earth again underneath them, supporting their body, so they feel secure and safe. They can let go, let all that tension in the body go and melt into the earth. Invite them to relax into the earth deeper and deeper, letting go of all stress, all tension, all holding in the muscles and the body. Invite the students to feel their body become heavier, feel their body sinking deeper into the earth, like laying on a beach and the body imprints into the sand. Invite them to become totally relaxed, like a sack of potatoes, I say sometimes. Feeling the body become heavier and sinking even more deeply into the earth. Invite body awareness. Either moving up the body, inviting them to notice their toes, big toe, each toe, or you could just invite them to notice the feet, ankles, shins. You can go 1 foot at a time. The right leg, the right knee, the right thigh, and then go to the left. Always include both legs. And then as you continue the body awareness, if you're going to take them through that, through the toes all the way up to the crown. Another way to do body awareness, you can do both or just one, is to invite them to Bring their awareness to the lower part of their body, the upper part of their body, the right side, left side, the front of the body, the back of the body, and then sinking deeper into the earth. And invite relaxation of the systems. This is another option. All the systems of the body. So you can invite them to relax the bones and the skeletal system, the muscles and the entire muscular system. Relaxing their glands and letting the endocrine systems release and relax and let go. The lungs and respiratory system, the stomach, intestines, and digestive system, the entire organ of the skin, relax and release. I always like to end with the nervous system, inviting them to release and relax the brain and the spinal column and the entire nervous system. So that is a beautiful invitation in relaxation, to inviting them to relax all the systems of the body. And another thing that can happen during Savasana is you can offer a little touch. Some people, some yoga instructors will still pull the legs, and that sounds a little funny, but it's a very gentle, where you can hold onto the ankles very gently and just bring a little tension, pulling the legs out away from the body, and maybe gentle rocking them back and forth. Another option is massaging the hands, bringing the feet, or the scalp. Make sure with any touch in yoga, you invite everybody to choose whether they want to, and invite them, if they want to have some touch, they can just gently put their hand up. If they don't put their hand up, do not touch your students at all. And then it is time to leave complete silence. Absolute silence. No more talking. No one talking at all. This is the juice of the practice. This is where they've arrived. So allow for, depending on how much time you have left, 5 or 10 minutes for complete silence, so they can deeply integrate the practice into their bodies, all the energies of the practice. And sometimes before prompting them to come out, one of the things I love to do is I have a very special drum. It's John's drum. I drum over their chakras. It's a fun thing to do. Or you could sing a short chant for some vibrational integration and support at the very end of their Savasana. And then prompting the students out of relaxation is inviting them to begin first to wiggle their fingers and their toes. We want to invite them to come out nice and slowly. So depending on how deep they've gone, it's one of the easiest things to do is start to just move those fingers and move those toes a little. As they start to come back into their body, they've been into some deep, expanded awareness. And after they've invited them to wiggle their fingers and toes and they're coming out, you can invite them to stretch their body out. Stretch the arms, stretch the legs, stretch the entire body. And this brings them even more into their body, out of the deep relaxation and more into the here and the now, present moment life. And after a nice stretch, you can invite them to roll over to one side or the other. I always give them the option to roll over one side or the other. And this is because it's nice to see what side they're feeling like they can go to. If, however, the room is very crowded, it is always nice to invite them to all roll over to the right or all roll over to the left, so people aren't bumping into each other. create some space. And as you invite them to roll over to their side, it's nice to invite them to notice the sensations of moving from a supine position to moving onto their side. A lot of subtle energy shifts happen in the body. All the organs are shifting, the body fluids are shifting, and an invitation to notice what's going on in their body, bringing them embodiment, awareness of that inner being is always a beautiful thing. And invite them to notice the subtle energies in the body. And after a couple breaths on their side, invite them to come up to a seated position for the closing of the practice. Now, like myself, there may be a student or two who choose to remain a bit longer in Savasana. Simply allow this. Do not wait for them. Do not bring any attention to them. Simply let them have their process. Keep in the momentum of your class. Don't slow or delay anything because it's important for the other students and who will need the class to end on time because they have commitments after the class. And anybody who wishes to bask and stay a little longer who may not have any time commitments can do so without bringing any attention to it. I'll tell you another little story. I had studied in Kripalu Center in my youth, and when I came to Salt Lake City in 1994, I found a Kripalu Yoga teacher, Virginia Aldridge. And I'd only been to a class a very few times, and during Savasana, I went into a spontaneous samadhi. And I had experienced these as a child, but my phone is going off. What is that? Excuse me a second. Apologize for that. So I went into a spontaneous samadhi and I was way out in expanded awareness. I could not move my body at all. I didn't want to. It felt so good. And I could hear the class leave. I could hear the next class come in. I could hear people talking about me. Is she asleep? Is she okay? And it didn't matter to me. Because you're very alert. You're not sleeping when you're in samadhi. And but the embarrassing thing of it was I was right smack in the middle of the room. And so after that class, I would continue to go to her classes because they're amazing, but I would put my mat, as I still always do, in the very corner, back corner of the room. So if I do go into a samadhi, then it just takes me, and you never really know when that's going to spontaneously grab your consciousness real deep. It's okay. I'm in the back corner of the room. No one will even really notice me. So do allow students to have that experience and don't bring any attention to it. They don't want attention. They want to have their own experience. It's a very calm experience. It's a very natural experience. And when I was in India, people after we'd have sessions, myself and many, many other people would simply bask in samadhi and Savasana for a long time. The room, they'd turn the lights down low, and it was very natural. And the final element of a yoga class is your closing. Invite your students as they're sitting up now to do another body scan, to go in once again and notice the energetic sensations, notice what's occurring in their body, inviting them to notice with no judgment, without using any descriptive words, to be in that felt sense rather into that intellectual describing sensation, to simply feel that kaleidoscope of energetic and emotional sensations. Scan their body. And again, it could be just an overall scan, a dive in. They can go from their head to their toes throughout. They can scan through the chakras. And then invite them to return back to that intention. Reaffirming the intention that they had set at the beginning of practice for themselves. And then, of course, inviting them to silently repeat and check into that intention for themselves once again. And inviting them to seal that intention in silently for themselves. And to acknowledge themselves for coming to this yoga practice, to loving themselves enough and caring for themselves and their body, be doing something so positive and good for themselves. And an invitation is to end the class with an Om together, sometimes 3 Oms. If I'm going to do an Om, I usually only do 1. And then I always like to end my classes with a Namaste. And I like to go through the full Namaste prayer. I like to invite them to bring their hands in prayer positions at their heart center. And repeat the prayer. And I'll repeat that for you now. I honor the place in you in which the entire universe dwells. I honor the place in you which is of love, of light, of truth, and of peace. When I am in that place in me, and you are in that place in you, we are one. Namaste. Wish your students a wonderful and beautiful day. And a beautiful thing is to remain in the front of the room so that students can find you in case they have a question or they want to thank you for the class, so that you're approachable. You're there for them. You're not rushing around picking up mats. You're present and you're available. And sometimes nobody will come up with you. Don't take it personal. They have busy lives. Doesn't mean they didn't love your class. So it is polite to not just rush into beginning to clean up the room before the students have left. Unless, of course, there are some straggler students that just want to chit chat, or if there's a class directly after, then feel free to be responsible with your time and clean up the room for another class. So thank you for being here for this class on our the environment and elements of a class. I am Grace with Ecstatic Yoga. You can go to ecstaticyoga.studio for more information. We have retreats, teacher trainings, and wishing you a most beautiful and most blessed day. Namaste.